Ladies and gents, we're off to a sizzling start at the Singapore Grand Prix. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz dazzled in the practice sessions, topping the charts and leaving us all a bit gobsmacked. Everyone expected their pace to drop as the track cooled, but they smashed that theory right out of the park. Meanwhile, Mercedes had a cheeky encounter with some local lizards, but both Hamilton and Russell shrugged it off and got on with it, describing it as their best Friday session so far this year. Red Bull, however, had a bit of a wobble with Verstappen grappling with balance issues, and Perez had his own teething problems in FP2. Over at McLaren, Lando Norris showcased the upgrades and appears optimistic ahead of qualifying. And Aston Martin? Well, they've had a quiet run so far, but with a top 10 finish in both sessions, they're flying under the radar. Williams had their share of issues, to say the least. But it's not all doom and gloom, as the midfield promises a heated battle for the top grid spots. So, who will come out on top, and who will falter? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, qualifying is going to be a nail-biter, and we can't wait to see how it all unfolds. Hi folks! I'm your host Enzo, and steering the ship with me today is the brilliant William.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for tuning into F1 Motor Fever podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell icon to never miss out on the latest in the racing world. Full throttle. Let's dive right in. Continuing with the action, the Scuderia Ferrari team really shone today with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz securing a double 1-2 sweep in the practice sessions. Leclerc, who topped FP1, was overtaken by Sainz in FP2. Sainz mentioned that he expects the track to improve for tomorrow, which should offer higher grip. Shockingly, Mercedes star drivers Hamilton and Russell had to contend with some unexpected reptilian intruders on the track during their initial laps in FP1.
Wow, talk about drama. I've heard through the grapevine that Red Bull is planning to bring in a new secret weapon. Sound wild enough? A new propulsion technology, something about quantum mechanics and tachyons.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down there, mate. That sounds like an episode from a science fiction show rather than F1 news. Folks, it's crucial to verify any information from reliable sources, such as the official Formula One website or Bandeirantes, the official F1 broadcaster in Brazil.
You're absolutely right, I apologize. I suppose I got a bit carried away with the speculation. I promise to be more cautious with the information I share.
Now, let's shift gears to the Mercedes team. Both Hamilton and Russell managed to heat up the track as the sun went down. Hamilton loved the new track changes and called this the best free practice 2 session he's had this year. Quite an endorsement, wouldn't you agree? Russell echoed the positivity, highlighting that the car performed well in both the cooler temperatures of FP2 and during the slightly different conditions of FP1.
Indeed, and let's not forget about Andrew Shovlin, the trackside engineering director. He stated that both drivers were happy with the balance, but there's work to be done regarding the approach with the soft tire. It seems like a lot of improvements and fine-tuning are in order overnight.
Indeed, my dear listeners. Reflecting on all this, doesn't it make you marvel at the sheer intensity and complexity of Formula One? The strategy, the technical prowess, the unexpected variables on the track, and the underlying thrill of competition. It's all so captivating, don't you think? Are you as excited about these updates as we are? Don't forget to show your love by hitting that like button. Can't thank you enough for your support. Let's forge ahead with more insights. Now, let's delve into the Red Bull team. Verstappen had quite an eventful day, meeting with a lizard on the track, reminding us of his famous Godzilla encounter from a few years ago. But aside from wildlife encounters, the team had a tough day with both drivers struggling with their cars.
That's true. It seems Verstappen was having issues with the balance of his car, stating they tried different things in free practice too, some of which worked and some didn't. The performance was not up to their expectations, leaving them with a lot of work overnight.
Well, let's see how they bounce back tomorrow. As Andrew Shovlin from Mercedes pointed out, the performance order has been quite interesting with Ferrari, McLaren, and Aston Martin showing strong pace. Unusually, Red Bull didn't seem to be the ones to beat today, but he anticipates they'll sort that out for tomorrow. It's going to be a fierce fight for the top grid spots.
Absolutely, and it's these kinds of unpredictable moments that make Formula One such a thrilling sport. It's not all about speed, but strategy, adaptability, and tenacity. Can't wait to see how things pan out tomorrow.
Moving on to Perez from Red Bull. Like Verstappen, he also seemed to be having issues with the rear end of the car, particularly during free practice 2. The team is hoping to sort this out and find the best possible setup before qualifying. Interestingly, Perez also noted that Ferrari was expected to perform well, but he feels they are currently too far away.
That's a good point. It appears there's quite a bit of concern spreading through the Red Bull camp. While they're known for their ability to pull things together, they seem to be on the back foot at the moment.
Indeed. I'm a bit curious about something though. I have a nagging memory of a similar instance where Red Bull was struggling during practice but managed to completely turn it around during the race. Am I remembering it correctly?
You might be onto something, but I can't quite recall. Should we check with Victoria on this?
Excellent idea. Let me dial her up. Hello Victoria, I hope you're well. We're in the middle of the podcast and we've hit a roadblock. Was there an instance where Red Bull turned a struggling practice session into a successful race? I see. That makes sense. Thanks a lot, Victoria, much appreciated. I'll talk to you later. Well, there you have it, it turns out I was right. A similar scenario did occur back in the Grand Prix of Emilia-Romagna last year. Red Bull had a rough start during practice but turned it around on race day.
Oh yes! Now that you mention it, I do remember that race. They certainly have a knack for bouncing back when it counts.
Shifting gears a bit, let's talk about Aston Martin. Alonso seems to enjoy the new track layout and had a well-paced practice, focusing on building confidence with the car and the track. He anticipates a tight qualifying, doesn't he?
Certainly appears so. Alonso mentioned the potential of fluctuating positions based on small differences in lap times. He seems to be ready to put in the work to nail those qualifying laps.
Now, his teammate Stroll had a bit of a difficult day. Even though he appreciates the new track layout, he's not quite sure if it's conducive to overtaking. He also struggled to find the desired pace.
Yes, he's hoping that tweaking the setup can bring about some improvement for the qualifying. It's going to be a crucial night for Aston Martin.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, over at McLaren, Norris has the full package of parts and upgrades, and was the faster McLaren driver in both sessions. He sounds confident for tomorrow's qualifying.
Quite the contrast from Aston Martin's day. It just goes to show how different each team's experience can be, even on the same track. Looking forward to tomorrow's action.
Going back to McLaren, Norris seems pretty chuffed with the new upgrades his car received. He believes they're a nice improvement from what they had, right?
Definitely. He sounded pretty optimistic about the changes, stating that they've achieved what they were intended to. He's also realistic about their chances though, acknowledging that they may not be on par with Ferrari yet, but are in a good position otherwise.
And what about Piastri? It's his first time on the Singapore track, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and it seems he found it to be quite a learning experience. These street circuits can be quite tricky, but he's confident that with more experience, they'll be in better shape.
The team principal, Andrea Stella, also seemed pleased with the day's outcome. He thanked the team for their efforts in testing the upgrades and seemed hopeful about their competitiveness.
All this talk about first experiences and learning curves brings back memories of my own childhood. I remember when I was just a lad, my old man took me go-karting for the first time. Quite like Piastri, I found it to be a massive learning experience. I was initially overwhelmed, but with each lap, I grew more comfortable and confident. It's an experience I'll always remember, and I believe it's quite relevant to what Piastri is experiencing right now.
Now, let's move on to Alpine. Ocon had a bit of a close call during his second free practice, didn't he?
Indeed. Barely missing the wall by a mere centimetre. Quite the precision there.
That's what we call threading the needle, right? Besides that though, it seems like a fairly standard day for the French team, testing their upgrades and collecting data.
Precisely. Ocon is optimistic about the car's improvements, but there's definitely more work to be done ahead of the third free practice and qualifying.
On the other hand, Gasly's been kept busy testing various items and also experienced the intense heat and humidity of Singapore.
It's all part of the challenge, as he said. Despite the hard work, he still feels there's room for improvement in their performance. Looks like all teams are on their toes for tomorrow's qualifying.
Shifting our attention to Alfa Romeo now. They seem to have held their cards close to their chest in the first practice session, opting not to run the soft tyres.
A bit of a tactical move there, keeping their true form under wraps until the conditions cooled down.
It's interesting that Bottas managed a time that put him in the top 10. Coupled with their new floor upgrade, it seems like Alfa Romeo has taken a positive step forward.
Indeed. Bottas seems confident about the upgrade, mentioning it brought more load and stability to the rear end. Even so, he acknowledges they need to work on their pace tonight to ensure they stay in the top 10 come tomorrow.
On the other hand, Zhou finds the new track layout interesting and perhaps a bit less stressful. He seems optimistic about the overtaking opportunities it presents, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. albeit he's aware it'll still be a challenge. Nevertheless, it's been a smooth day for him and he believes they're closer to their competitors than the times might suggest. It'll be interesting to see how they improve tomorrow.
Moving on to AlphaTauri, it seems like Lawson spent the first practice session getting used to the Singapore track. He managed a highly competitive time in the second session, outdoing his teammate Tsunoda.
Indeed, Lawson's performance was impressive, considering he's new to the circuit outside of the simulator. It's clear he's enjoying the experience and eager to make the most of the third free practice session.
Lawson also mentioned that it's hard to notice the differences in the updates on this type of circuit. But he does feel that the car has improved overall. It seems they'll be analyzing their data thoroughly tonight to ensure they're ready for qualifying tomorrow.
Sounds like a plan. Meanwhile, Tsunoda seems to have been a bit distracted by lizards, of all things. It'll be interesting to see if he can refocus for the qualifying session.
He'll have to, won't he? Can't let the reptiles steal the show after all. It'll be quite the spectacle seeing all these teams bring their A game tomorrow. It seems Tsunoda also didn't feel a significant improvement in grip between the soft and medium tires. He's noted a drop in grip with the soft compound towards the end. That's an interesting observation, isn't it?
Quite. They'll certainly have to investigate this issue, given the unique nature of the Singapore track. It could have a significant impact on their performance tomorrow.
AlphaTauri's chief race engineer, Jonathan Eddles, touches upon their focus on understanding the performance of their new aero components. He also mentions the importance of maximizing laps for Lawson and Tsunoda since both drivers are fairly new to this track.
Indeed. Despite the initial hiccups, it seems they've made some positive strides, especially with the performance on the medium compound tire during the second practice session. However, there's still work to do concerning the short soft tire run, particularly for Tsunoda.
Now, here's a surprise. It turns out these reptile sightings weren't the only things disrupting normalcy. The high track temperatures and green track in Singapore made it difficult to learn much during the first practice session. But apparently, despite these challenges, the drivers were happy with their cars.
I suppose when you're in the world of Formula One, unpredictability is the only constant. It's all about adapting and making the most of the situation at hand.
On to Haas now. They seemed to struggle in the sweltering heat during the first practice session but showed marked improvement once temperatures cooled. Surprisingly, Magnussen found himself inside the top 10. Quite a strong showing, don't you reckon?
Indeed, quite a recovery. But much can change, and it seems their performance is quite dependent on the conditions. With tire wear being an issue for the team, a cooler climate tomorrow night could potentially increase their chances.
Nico Hülkenberg has shared his thoughts as well. He feels they were quite productive during the first and second practice sessions, gathering all the usual data for the car and the circuit. Now, it's all about analyzing that data to prepare for qualifying.
Yes, and Hülkenberg voiced a concern that many drivers share, the difficulty of overtaking. It makes a high qualifying position even more valuable.
And similar thoughts from Kevin Magnussen. He's satisfied with the low fuel, one-lap performance but identifies high fuel performance as the area needing improvement.
All part of the strategy game in Formula One. You want to start as far up the grid as possible, especially on difficult overtaking circuits like Singapore. It's going to be an interesting race weekend.
Günther Steiner, team principal for Haas, seems cautiously optimistic about the performance so far. It's day one of a long weekend, and the car seems to be working better at this track. That's a good sign, isn't it?
Certainly, but Steiner's caution is well-founded. Formula One is unpredictable. It's all about long-term performance, and today they couldn't do more than 8 or 9 consecutive laps. I believe we can expect more clarity on their performance in the coming days.
Now on to Williams. It appears that Albon managed to find his way into the midst of the pack in FP1, which is commendable. However, he seemed to have encountered a power issue at the start of FP2, unfortunately. These technical hiccups can turn things around swiftly in this sport.
Absolutely, it could prove quite costly, considering the second practice session is the most representative one. We'll have to wait and see how this affects the rest of his weekend.
Logan Sargent's performance also seems to have improved from FP1 to FP2. Despite a mistake on his soft tire lap, he's optimistic about the learnings from today. Learning and adapting on the fly is crucial in this sport.
You've hit the nail on the head there. A driver's ability to learn from his mistakes and adapt is often what separates the great from the good. It will be interesting to see how Sargent fares in the remainder of the weekend.
Alex Albon's day has been filled with a few challenges. It appears there was an issue with the battery during his lap. This sort of setback can be quite disruptive, especially on a circuit like Singapore where you need every lap to build confidence.
Yes, this lack of running time can indeed force them into a bit of guesswork tomorrow. But Albon seems positive about the car's performance, excluding the issue. And thankfully, they don't believe they'll suffer from any penalties.
Dave Robson, head of vehicle performance, expressed the day was tricky. An issue with the ERS system of the power unit cut Albon's second practice session short. They'll have to make up for lost time during the third practice session.
It's never easy when technical issues cut into valuable practice time, but these challenges are part and parcel of Formula One. The team will have to pull together and make the most of the remaining time.
On the brighter side, Logan Sargent had a more successful day. He managed to gain some valuable experience of this tricky circuit and got a good sense of balancing low and high fuel performance. It's all a learning curve, isn't it?
Yes, experience and adaptability are key in this sport. Despite the challenges, both drivers and the team have shown a positive attitude and a readiness to tackle what lies ahead. It will be interesting to see how they fare tomorrow.
It seems like we've covered all the main updates from the practice sessions. It's been an eventful day, with its fair share of challenges and surprises.
Indeed, an ever-evolving narrative that's characteristic of Formula One. Tomorrow's FP3 will be critical for the teams to make up for lost time and to fine-tune their strategies.
And as always, we'll be here to bring you all the developments and insights from the paddock. As we've seen today, anything can happen in the world of Formula One.
You're absolutely right. It's a sport that keeps us on our toes, from the drivers and teams to us, the commentators, and of course, the fans worldwide. Let's wait and see what tomorrow brings.
William, are there any buzzies from the World Wide Web we should know about?
Indeed, there is. A user called RacingFan96 has posted, quote, "How Sainz usurped Leclerc as Ferrari's spearhead, the race," unquote.
Interesting. What other reactions to that?
One user, Stencilet, simply said, quote, "Was wondering when these articles were gonna come out," unquote. While online presenter often added, quote, "It's the race, the bar isn't high," unquote. It seems there are some mixed opinions here.
The crowd is a bit skeptical, it seems.
Oh, it gets better. Marky weighed in with, quote, "Carlos drove a fantastic race yesterday and rightly deserves all the plaudits for it. But wait till he makes a mistake next time and the same, social media will burn him into the ground just as easily, as usual," unquote.
The fickleness of fame. Anything else of note in the comments?
There's quite an interesting debate about where different drivers rank in terms of tiers. Backend56 says, quote, "Russell is good. He's just not on tier 1 with Verstappen, Hamilton, and Alonso. He's in tier 2 with Lando while Leclerc is in tier 1.5, unquote. This has sparked quite the discussion with users trying to pinpoint where Sainz fits into the picture.
Oh dear, we have tiers now. It's beginning to feel like a tiered cake.
It seems so. Toro_Supreme asked, quote, "Where would you rank Sainz," unquote, and got several different answers. Mr. Zevan thought he was close to tier 2, but then Toro_Supreme argued that based on his performance, Sainz could be considered 1.75.
1.75, that's quite specific.
Yes, but Mr. Zevan comes back with a solid argument, quote, "On pure talent both Lando and Charles are better I feel, at least 0.1 to 0.2 on pure pace. Carlos is consistent and has better strategic senses," unquote.
So what we're saying is, it's not always just about raw talent, is it?
Exactly, the sport is as much about strategy and consistency as it is about pure driving skill.
Well, that brings us to the end of another jam-packed episode of F1 Motor Fever podcast. We've had a pretty deep dive today into the unexpected twists and turns of the latest practice sessions, and it's been an absolute pleasure sharing it all with you. Remember to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of our episodes. Sharing is caring, so why not let your fellow F1 fans know about us? Share our channel on your social media platforms, WhatsApp groups, and even over a pint at your local. If you liked what you heard, we'd love to hear from you in the comments.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Enzo. And remember folks, we're here every day, making sure you get your daily dose of all things Formula One. So don't forget to tune in. And hey, little birdie tells me we've got some exciting stuff lined up in the near future.
We certainly do, William Turner. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate your company and look forward to seeing you on the next episode of F1 Motor Fever podcast. Till then, William Turner and Enzo together, pedal to the metal, keep your gaze on the road, our channel's content is pure gold.